Hey y'all, welcome to today's show. I hope you're enjoying the cold weather. I'm not an extreme cold weather person myself, but I know some people are still walking around in shorts. We call them morons. Yes, yeah. Anyway, um, let's talk about a couple of medicinal trees. You know, the trees that have herbal medicinal properties. The easiest to find of all the medicinal herbs are the trees that are all around us. And this comes from my book, The Medicinal Trees of the American South. It's actually called Look Up, an Herbalist Guide to the Medicinal Trees of the American Southeast. Anyway, you can find it on Amazon. You can get it directly from me if you want. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. And I'm terrible at remembering the specific titles of my own books. So it's something like that anyway. Just remember, my name's Judson Carroll, and I've written 13 books now. The new one is on foraging for the plants that will be coming up in the spring. It's a spring foraging cookbook. I hope you'll get a copy. I had a lot of fun writing it, and I can't wait. Maybe in the spring, when these plants are actually coming up around here, I can do some videos and post them on Rumble to show you how I actually harvest and cook these plants. Maybe actually, go into the woods, take my phone and show you a little video to help you identify the plant. I don't like visual identifications like that. I believe in learning the botanical aspects of the plant. The whether the leaves are opposite or alternate, the shape of the leaf, the shape of the stem, that, because the same plant could look quite different grown in two different environments. But, maybe I can go in the woods and at least show you what they look like where they grow around me, and then take them home and cook a recipe with them out of my cookbook. If that's something y'all would like, let me know. I'm certainly not opposed to doing that. Now that I got my new cell phone has a great camera and a lousy microphone. So I went down to Dollar Tree and I got a little set of earbuds with a microphone, and works perfectly for $1.25. I mean, you can't beat that. Of course, before Biden, it was just $1, right? The only color they had is pink. So if you don't mind seeing me in pink earbuds, I think it'll work just fine. And I've got my professional podcaster's microphone here. If I had to figure out how to rig that up to the thing, I can, I guess. But yeah, I think I'll just use the little pink earbuds. Anyway, the first tree we're going to talk about is Mimosa. Now, Mimosa is a beautiful tree that is native to the southeastern United States. The Mimosa julibrisson is. That one is native to my area. There are several different types of varieties of mimosa. There are mimosas that grow out west. There are mimosas that grow in Australia. Some of them have some really unique properties. In fact, the ones that are grown in Australia seem to have the unique property of you can make the hallucinogenic drug DMT from the roots. Some of those grow here in the United States as well. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. I stay away from hallucinogens. The one that has most research is the western one, the name of which escapes me right now. The julibrisson that is these are the Albizia species, by the way, Albizia or Mimosa. The Mimosa julibrisson that grows in my area does not seem to have much research done about it whatsoever. The western one has been shown to reduce mast cells. Now, mast cells are produced by your body. They are actually the receptors for histamine. When you have an allergic reaction, your body produces both mast cells and histamine. Histamines fit a mast cell like a key and create an allergic reaction. When we take an over-the-counter antihistamine, we're reducing the histamines, right? We don't do anything to reduce the mast cells. Certain herbs that are like mimosa are really good for stinging nettles. Another one are really good. That's very common in my area. I got a whole chapter on this in my book, Herbal Medicine for Preppers. So you can look that up. I've done a show on it. If you just want to pull up the podcast, it was probably about a year ago. Just go through the archives, and it was herbs for allergies. Anyway, these herbs actually reduce the mast cells. As if you have fewer mast cells, your body actually produces fewer histamines as well. So really good to use herbs that have an anti-histamine and anti-mast cell quality together in a formula, and that's all in that show. So just know if you're looking up herbal information for the mimosa tree, which to me it's a beautiful tree. It's a small tree. It doesn't usually grow more than about 15 feet tall. I think it is the highest I've ever seen one. The leguminous trees, they actually fix nitrogen in the soil. They fertilize the ground. So I like to grow them, around my vegetable garden. And if I got some climbing cucumbers or tomatoes, I'll let them grow right up the mimosa trees. I think they're great. The flowers smell like watermelon. I mean, they're fantastic. But for some reason, most people, at least in North Carolina, consider them to be a big weed and try to kill them. I don't get that. Don't get that at all. I've heard it called a white trash tree. I've heard it called by even worse terms. It's a pretty tree that's native to the South and smells wonderful. I don't get it. I don't get people, I guess. I don't get lawn people. I don't get people that, want pretty grass and nothing else growing in it. It'll spread like crazy. That's what leguminous trees do, but that's a good thing because they're actually fertilizing the soil. You can go and, if you want to, just mow them down. And all that nitrogen gets released in the soil. Then, you could put a mulch on top and plant. That's what I usually do. If you wanted to, you could get a rototiller and go through there, and you're going to have really, you don't have to pay for fertilizer, and you can have some phenomenal tomatoes. I love them. Used to be people would plant little tobacco patches around mimosa trees or vice versa, because even though they didn't know the scientific reason, the tobacco grew better around mimosa trees. Well, tobacco needs a lot of nitrogen, and the mimosa tree is a leguminous tree. The interesting thing, and this has been shown of all mimosas so far as I know, flowers are mildly narcotic. That means they can reduce pain and relax the body. The leaves and bark may also be used. A tincture of the flowers is really sweet smelling. It smells like a floral watermelon. It's really nice. And actually, you can make a little cocktail with it. That actually may be one of the few herbs I think. Well, not maybe. I could see rose, violet. Honeysuckle certainly. But this is one you could actually use. Put a shot of it in some lemonade or something, and you're going to have something that's really, really nice. One thing I like to do is, I like to make kefir, and kombucha, right? So when you make those, you brew them off as you would any fermented beverage. Then you do a secondary fermentation in an enclosed bottle. You can either just add a little sugar and cap it, and it'll carbonate on its own. You don't actually have to add anything. It'll just carbonate on its own because, even though it looks still, it's still working. There's still active yeast in there and such working. People put fruit in there. Well, one thing I like to do is put a half a cupful or just a handful, or even a pinch of mimosa blossoms, dried mimosa blossoms. I pick them in the spring. I let them dry thoroughly. That's amazing. That is the best tasting kombucha and kefir I've ever had. And it has that relaxing, pain reducing quality. There's actually a lot of sugar in mimosa blossoms, and you'd be amazed. Just like regular kombucha or kefir can, get a little bit of an alcoholic kick to it. More so than just putting fruit in there. I was surprised. There are also yeasts on the flowers, so I think that contributes to it as well. Yeasts occur naturally on every flower and fruit. Anytime you make a beverage out of flowers or fruit and you let it sit there for a day, those yeasts are going to start converting sugars into alcohol. That's the way God intended it. The big controversy when I was at a certain Southern Baptist university, and they said it's a sin to drink alcohol. And I said, well, if Jesus made wine, how can that be sinful? And they said, well, we don't believe that was really wine. We believe it was grape juice. And I tried to explain the chemical process of how you crush a grape. The yeasts are actually on the skin. It immediately starts converting sugars to alcohol. And in the ancient Middle East, Israel, Palestine, whatever, where they had no refrigeration, no pasteurization, certainly, really within 24 hours, there was no way of keeping grape juice. That was wine. And of course, the Bible also talks about drunkenness, so obviously it was wine. I don't think there's any, I have certainly no moral objection as a Christian to drinking alcohol. The only problem is getting drunk and acting like a fool, you know. But anyway, as an herbalist, I use alcohol all the time in tinctures and what have you. So, according to Plants for a Future, medicinal use of mimosa, and they just give mimosa in general. See, they don't break it down. Like I said, the Western mimosas have had a lot more study than the Eastern mimosas, and I think most mimosas can pretty much be used interchangeably. Although obviously, like with the Australian ones, there are some with certain special effects, shall we say. But then again, who knows? Has the same thing been tried with the mimosas that grow here in North Carolina? I have no idea, and I'm not going to try to find out. So, Plants for Future says medicinal use of mimosa. The flower heads are carminative, digestive, sedative, and tonic. So they're going to help settle your stomach, and they're sedative, and well, I think they mean tonic and like tonifying the stomach, good for digestion. They could mean tonic for the whole body. They don't specify. It's not really a very accurate, specific word to use. They're used internally in the treatment of insomnia, irritability, breathlessness, and poor memory. And I do find it to be pretty good for asthma and being short of breath. I don't know about poor memory. I have a great memory. Well, not really. I can forget my name and birthday and where I put my keys, but I can also remember like every word out of a book I read 20 years ago, or, you know, I have a weird memory. I haven't been able to test that one out. The flowers are harvested as they open and dried for later use. The stem bark is anodyne. The flowers are, okay, the stem bark is anodyne, which means it reduces pain. So when you make a tincture out of it, you don't want to just use the flowers. Actually, when you pick the flowers, you're going to get tons of little leaves and stems as well. The stem bark is anodyne, which means it reduces pain. Anthelmintic, which means it can help get rid of worms and intestinal parasites and such as that. Carminative means it helps basically with gas and an upset stomach. It also has a property that herbalists say is discutient. Not a word that most people are going to use, and I don't think most doctors would even know what the heck you were talking about. You know, I told you before how some people like to use fancy language to make themselves look smarter. It's like a barrier to entry. Well, discutient is one of those words, and all that means is it reduces swelling. Yeah, you could just say, hey, it reduces swelling, but no, they say discutient. A diuretic, which means it reduces excess fluid, edema and such. Good for blood pressure and various things. Oxytocic, which is very interesting. Oxytocin is what they call the feel-good hormone. It's the hormone that's stimulated by, anything from hugging a family member to petting your dog to, oxytocin is the feel-good hormone. The mimosa can actually stimulate the production of oxytocin in the system. Another very good reason to have this tree around, and maybe make some kefir or kombucha out of it. Maybe whatever. Make a tincture and put a little bit in your lemonade or something on a hot summer day. Sedative, stimulant, and I think as far as stimulant in this regard, we mean stimulant to the digestive system, and I'm going to say the same thing for tonic. Vermifuge is basically the same as anthelmintic. It just means it gets rid of worms. And vulnerary, which means it's actually wound healing. You can make a poultice of mimosa leaves, stems, blossoms, whatever, and it will help heal wounds. It has been used internally in the treatment of insomnia and irritability. That's the sedative aspect of the plant. Externally for boils and carbuncles. Well, it's actually been used internally and externally for boils and carbuncles. Externally, it is applied to injuries and swellings. The bark is harvested in spring or late summer and is dried for later use. A gummy extract obtained from the plant may be used as a plaster for abscesses, boils, fractures, and sprains. So, this so-called weedy plant that everybody tries to eradicate from their